Ohio State quarterback Air Noland has entered the transfer portal. We need to talk about what that means for Ohio State, what that means for Air Noland, and why I think everybody's probably going to get what they want on this one. And I'm excited about that. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, please subscribe to the channel as we are headed toward 123,000 subscribers. Ring the bell so you don't miss any of the segments that we upload here so you can get what you are subscribing to as soon as it pops off. We love to talk about what is going on in college football as soon as it happens in most instances. And from time to time, I like to give you a segment that perhaps doesn't actually come to mind as quickly as, well, some of these other news items would. And we're not there yet because we're still very much playing college football right now. And the segment that I'm really talking about is looking into 2025. And that's kind of how we get to talk about Aon Nolan. But this is also going to affect the Buckeyes' present as well as their future. So Prentice Aon Nolan was one of the more highly touted quarterbacks coming out of his class. And I thought it was a boon for Ohio State and Nolan to find each other. Now, what precipitated this was Dylan Raiola, who at one time, believe it or not, it's that long ago, was committed to Ohio State. When he backed off of his commitment, Ryan Day, and at the time, only Ryan Day, as we're getting to this, like talking about coordinators, offered a scholarship to Aon Nolan, to the guy that at Langston Hughes as a junior had a phenomenal year, over 4,000 yards passing, 55 TDs, and a state title. And that's a program that absolutely could make it go. Like, Jelani comes from there too, tight end at Ohio State that I expect to have a really great career. One of those Algie Crumper types, man, like just big, all off sides, but also got hands that are soft. I love a big, strong tight end. I really do. The tight end that plays wide receiver, but I do love a dude that looked like he could play a guard and could play wide out or could play fullback. And you know what? Probably want to drop back and throw some passes himself. However, with Julian Sayin choosing to transfer after early enrolling in Alabama with Nick Saban's retirement, kind of threw a wrench into whatever it is that Aon Nolan was going to be able to do. And now it feels like it's done. Julian Sayin is the heir apparent to the Ohio State quarterback position in 2025, no matter what they do in the transfer portal, because Will Howard is gone after this year. Devin Brown entered the transfer portal earlier this month. So now you will go from having 5 scholarship quarterbacks to 3. Now, I don't expect Lincoln Kienholz to get much run here, but it also kind of opens it up for guys like Tavian St. Clair to really make a dent when they get to Ohio State. I also thought that we're kind of robbed of a pretty good quarterback derby, all things considered. I know that there's a lot of Buckeye fans that already believe that Sayin should be playing right damn now as opposed to Will Howard, and there's something to that. But I think both Aon Nolan and Julian Sayin are super talented. It's just one's much more highly recruited than the other. And frankly, I think that Aon Nolan's going to get a lot of offers, man. It's going to be quite the recruitment for this dude. You're going to see why when you go look at the film, but you can also check out a segment that I did with him a couple years ago talking about his decision to go to Ohio State and how locked in he was. And even during the rest of this year, it felt like there were opportunities for him to just say, I'm going to transfer in the middle of the season, and it didn't come to that. What sucks, though, is that as you're running up on the transfer portal deadline in the middle of us still playing football, meaningful football, college football, playoff football, it feels unfair, right? Bo Pribula had to do this too. He was very frank about the calendar is really merciless to someone like him who wants to play ball, but also does not want to quit on the team right now. And as soon as you enter the transfer portal, it becomes a conversation with the coach about whether or not he wants to have you around the football team and whether or not you want to be around the football team. In most instances, they tell that guy that he's no longer a part of the team and, wish him well, but you don't see him anymore. I think that's awful, honestly. I think that there should be some concessions made because, for instance, there's some concessions made for college football coaches who are taking other jobs elsewhere. Indiana's dealing with that right now. As soon as the season ends, then you go. But that's not how the calendar works for players because there is no calendar for coaches. They can get hired, they can get fired at any point. They can take a job, they can leave a job at any point. And I think that that should be the way it is for college football players. Now, for the folks that say that college football looks more like the NFL, well, yeah, duh. It was always going to get to that because the NFL is our national pastime. And I believe that most of our sports that play football should mirror something like the NFL, from health and safety being the thing that we start with, like kids tackling before 8th grade, 9th grade, we can have a conversation about that. But in as far as divisions, in as far as how many teams we have, separation, all those things I think are within reason up for grabs. And I think, one of the things that you get to do is you get to cut a player, or that player gets traded, or, that's the reason I don't think that we have like a 1-to-1 with the NFL, because we don't trade players. If we could, that'd be a lot of fun. It'd be a lot of fun. I don't know how that would go down. But now that you've got name, image, and likeness deals that are basically contracts to play football, and then financial aid agreements that assure you an opportunity to finish your degree, even if you leave early, or if you wanted to transfer, that's when that gets null. But now we have language for buyout, right? Now we have language for if you want to leave. The only thing that we don't have in college football right now that I think we still need is employee status for the players. However, that also gets rid of the whole you got to go to class thing. I really don't understand why we're still arguing about this part. Like, I get that some of y'all believe that a degree is controversial, but let me tell you something. You believe that getting a degree is important until you got to see somebody wants their loans forgiven, and then you going to catch feelings. Talking about, I didn't take out loans against an education. Why should I allow that person to get forgiveness for going to go get the education? Well, because you're here right now telling me how much an education matters. So if an education is more important than, say, the money that's going to be borrowed against it, then I think we're all on the same plane here. And you can do student loan debt forgiveness for everybody forever. Or you ain't got to go to class no more. And you need to get off your high horse and start acting like you want the sport to be, which is you don't give a damn whether or not these boys blow to class. You don't care. And I'm saying this as a person with more professional degrees than most people. You know what I'm saying? I got the master's degree before I turned 25 years old, dog. Like, I was in the PhD program at 30. That was what I was going to do. But you know why? Because I needed a job. And as soon as you get a job, you no longer need to go to school. I have a job. I don't need to go to school no more. When you're getting paid to play a sport, you are a professional. That's what that means, right? Means you done going to school. Now you're getting your CEUs by playing more football. That's how that works, right? You go to OTAs, right? You go to the winter training program. But in as far as going to class, miss me with all of that, right? Like, you go to class for as long as you need to. If you didn't have to go to class to be an engineer, you wouldn't. That's just it. We go to class to prove to someone else that we can finish. But in the grand scheme of things, that degree doesn't really matter that much. It's a barrier for entry. That's it. What people want from you is work experience. Now, that said, once you show work experience, like, say, you are a 5-star quarterback who craps the bed, cough, cough, nudge, nudge, Jackson Arnold, your value goes down. And Air Noland hadn't had any of that. For that matter, neither is Julian Sayin. I think if you look at the film for Air Noland, you're going to be very impressed with what you see. And I think there are places that he fits, Oklahoma being one of them, Miami being another one of those. Like, there's going to be suitors for this guy. I mean, Maryland is another one. Like, you could keep going down the line on this. Now that Chandler Morris has transferred to Virginia, I would not be shocked to find out that there's a group of 5 programs that are going to be throwing bags at Air Noland. It's just whether or not you want to play in those programs, because going from Ohio State to anywhere else is a step down, right? There is or a lateral move. It's a step down or a lateral move. If you transfer to Alabama, perhaps that's a lateral move. Also interesting, depending on what Jalen Milroe is going to do, because if you like what you got back there, you like what you got back there. But let's say Air Noland also, wants to challenge Dante Moore at Oregon. That's a great spot. That's a really great spot. Or maybe Boise State is a really attractive option for you now, because everybody understands what that program is on about, and they're going to join the Pac-12 in a couple of years. What I'm saying is, Air Noland, I think, is going to end up in a good spot. He's going to play football. He's going to be pretty damn good. Julian Sayin, it's on him now. I think he would have been made sharper with some level of competition. And there still might be some guys that you want to go get and bring in out of the transfer portal. But for the most part, he came to Ohio State when Bill O'Brien was the offensive coordinator for all 29 days or whatever. And then you get Chip Kelly. I'm sure that Chip Kelly and Ryan Day could come up with a scheme that is helpful to Julian Sayin. But that scheme would also mean you got to throw the football around. And whoever's playing quarterback is going to have to throw the football to 4. And whomever is open, if 4 ain't open, but 4 is always going to be open, because that's what Jeremiah Smith is doing. He is butt naked open, because even when he's double covered. And I can't wait to see what this looks like when Ohio State welcomes Texas to Columbus. That's going to be a lot of fun. So we can see Julian Nolan and Jeremiah Smith versus Arch Manning and DeAndre Moore. Say nothing of whether or not C.J. Baxter is going to be playing at Texas or back, first healthy and then playing at Texas. I can't wait for that game already, but we still have football to play this weekend, as we're going to get some first-round matchups that are choice, right? We get Notre Dame, Indiana Friday night, and then we get 3 games on Saturday, and I will be talking about every last one of them. But for now, Aon Nolan into the portal, and Julian Sayin, the heir apparent. If you're an Ohio State fan, even if you aren't, let me know. Which one of these players do you think is going to have the better career over the next 3 years?